TikTok English all the time.
Not what I want. I want to hear the drama.
Don't ask about my opinion.
Why are you talking like all sexy and whatnot? Yeah, come in my trailer. Fucking bad.
The Eclectic Show.
It's a little better. Is my video okay?
Hey, how you doing? You're watching the Eclectic Show. I'm Seven. Today we have with us. We have Jessica.
Hey.
Gotta get your picture up. You have just your icon. We have Heather. You have to say hello.
Hi.
We got Stephanie.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so we're gonna jump into it. For a couple of weeks, obviously, the whole world has been talking about the Trayvon Martin case, and we have an update with the juror B29 talking more and more in public about the case, about making her decisions. And we're going to go into some footage and then talk about that.
I'm thinking to myself, did I go the right way? Did I go the wrong way? I know I went the right way because by the law and the way it was followed is the way I went. But if I would have used my heart,
all right, try to, Jess, if you can get a headset
went
everyone, because I don't know what's going on here.
I have one.
Yeah, so, quote unquote, if she went with her heart, things might have been a little bit different. So, Jessica, we'll start out with you. What is your take on juror B29?
Well, she was, in the video, she was explaining how it was so hard. You know, I think she didn't go into detail, but I guess maybe she was implying that she was singled out. I think with the situation this intense, I feel like she should have stuck it out. She said, you know, so it sounded like she was saying, you know, at first she said he was guilty, and, you know, everybody was against her or whatever, but at first she should have stuck it out. She should have, you know, now she's regretting it, now she's saying hard. I just feel like it was kind of, she popped out. I feel like she should have stuck with her original choice, and I think that was very weak of her. Yeah.
Heather?
Well, what I know about it, it's not easy being a juror. And I know there's lots of and I don't know about her situation, but I think that maybe she's just trying to, you know, save face now that, you know, the public knows who she is, so she doesn't want to look like a, you know, look like the bad guy. So I don't know what's in her heart exactly, or if she's actually telling the truth. But for me, it seems like she's trying to save face. She doesn't want to look like the bad guy.
Yeah, I got that feeling too, that it was more, she didn't necessarily say, excuse me, she didn't necessarily say that he was guilty. She just said that it would have been a hung jury. She didn't necessarily say he was innocent. Yeah, she kind of ride the fence with her answer, but she did reach out and say that she felt for Trayvon's mom, and that no mother should ever have to experience what they experienced. Stephanie, what is your take on B29?
I kind of agree with you. I think that we can't really tell if she's being sincere when she says she should have followed her heart. So she's saying that with publicity, or she should be sincere about it. But regardless, I'm sure it was a really hard decision to take either way at the time for her. You know, I can't really say.
A couple weeks ago, we spoke to a couple people
I think if Zimmerman were black, it would have been different. I feel like there would have been consequences earlier. If it were a white person, they always think that there was some reason why the white person would have done it. And I feel like if they were black, they would have immediately gotten locked up like we usually are.
I think that that's completely rhetorical. I feel as though any sort of case where brown skin is involved would be probably handled the same way. As soon as we throw a bit of Caucasian in it, it might be expedited differently. But until we change as a society, that's just how it rolls.
But definitely, if it was the opposite, I think it would be a huge difference.
If Zimmerman was a black guy and Trayvon was a white gentleman, the roles would be totally different. The case would be, it wouldn't have been any questions about it. It would have been jumped right on.
Absolutely, there would be no question. He would have been locked up and already dead by now. It would have been no questions.
Yeah, so.
The feedback consistent with people on the street, where if Zimmerman were black and Trayvon were white, it would have been a totally different situation. And it's interesting because juror, again, B29, really stressed the fact that behind the closed doors, they didn't talk about race at all. They just wanted to stick towards the facts. Now, it seems like the cards were against Trayvon. You know, the reality is that everything that went on, how everything was put together, had to do with race. But it's interesting from the juror standpoint that they tried to stay away from that as much as possible. Now, Heather, you're in the U.S. right now, but you're coming from Egypt. When it comes to the legal proceedings over there, because most of the country, I guess, is claiming the same religious background or, for the most part, ethnicity, do you have those kind of issues there at all? Like, is it more about rich, poor? Like, what are the building blocks that affect people over there when it comes to the law?
In some ways there are. A lot of the groups, the minority groups that are targeted are Christians because they're a minority, a religious minority. Also the poor. Sometimes rich people, the people who are richer, they have a bit more pull, so they can pay their way out of things. It's mostly minority groups, and sometimes the darker skinned Egyptians, they also are targeted. It's mostly like this.
Steph.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, you're a writer, you're a journalist, you're a host. Just from a journalistic background, how the case was handled when it comes to the media and even the aftermath, do you think that it was handled the right way out in the public?
Well, I think it was handled in the expected way, to say the least, where, of course, there was this big explosion of media everywhere about the case and what happened. But in the right way, well, and that's very, subjective because the right way is different for everybody.
Right.
I think it was handled in a very biased way. For me personally, the case, it's so clear that what happened, in my opinion, wasn't the best way to go. But obviously the media, that's the answer that they gave also. So any news channel or newspaper or magazine you picked up, they were all against, the guy who got let off, Zimmerman, obviously.
Right.
I always think that news should be kind of two-sided instead of one-sided, but that's the way the media in America is, and it's very influential on people and what we think and how we think. So to say if it was handled correctly is kind of a big question, but I think, for what it is, I think the news did deliver efficiently and gave out a lot of details and information to the public and let them kind of decide. So I would have to say they handled it in the right way, definitely the expected way for me.
Right. Well, definitely through the aftermath, a lot of celebrities, whether you look at it as them getting on the bandwagon or really, really caring about what's going on. Jay-Z and Harry Belafonte have something going on back and forth. And hold on a second.